Okay. Hi, Noam. Hi, Joel. Hi, Rick. Thank you so much for joining me here today on Vonvo.com. My name's Max Ringelheim. I'm the co-founder of Vonvo. Today's January 6th. I just wanted to go over a few quick things before we got started. The first is that this video is being recorded, and after the recording's over, we're going to upload the video to YouTube. Is that okay with all three of you?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. Great. And then next, just in regards to some rules and regulations, we don't want there to be any personal attacks, no insults or racist remarks, no belittling, and we just want the conversation to stay both civil and valuable. Are you guys okay with those rules?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, great. So let's jump right into it. We'll get right into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Just to ease our way into things, can we each get a quick bio about yourselves for our viewers who are listening? Noam, do you want to just give a quick bio about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm Noam from Israel, 27 years old. I'm a student. I study computer science.
Great. Joel, how about yourself?
Pardon?
Joel, can you just give a quick introduction?
Sure. So, my name is Joel Branold. I'm originally from London and I live in New York. I lived in Israel for 2 years. I professionally have worked on the Israeli and Palestinian conflict for the past 5 years.
Great. And Rick, how about yourself?
Yes, I'm a trained psychiatrist, but I haven't been working in the field for the last couple of years. I've been working on various social justice issues. This is one of them that I'm very interested in. So I have a couple of radio shows, SFPI Radio. We talk about this quite a bit. I've learned a lot from talking to other people, and I look forward to learning from Joel and Noam.
Great. Okay, so I mean, for today's discussion, I'm going to get it started with, talking about one particular subject. It is possible that if there's some people inside the, chat room that want to listen in or participate, I might drop out just to let them come in. But for now, I'll get it going with the first question. Joel, what is your opinion in regards to the labeling of Israel as an apartheid state? Can you give us your opinion on that?
Sure. I think that words have big impacts and clarity. I think that firstly, I think you need to be clear about, in such a statement, what are you labeling in terms of Israel, in terms of its entirety as an apartheid state? Does that mean that Israel is guilty of the crime of apartheid as defined by sort of the different conventions? Personally, I don't think Israel's an apartheid state. I think that what goes on in the West Bank and is closer to what apartheid could have looked like, specifically in terms of that you have rules and regulations that are split between people who are a member of who have citizenship and people who don't have citizenship, but there's no annexation. I think that within Israel proper, there are big challenges of racism towards the Arab minority and other minorities, but I would never define that as apartheid. I think that the fact that there's a joint legislature, there's Arab minority members on the Supreme Court, and other parts mean that that specific charge is frankly incorrect. But what I would say is that there are significant challenges, like all democracies face, with integration of minorities, specific minorities who have an issue with the majority culture, which Israel faces specifically within what is generally conceived of within 67 Israel. Within the occupied West Bank, there's greater challenges that if an Arab child and a Jewish child got into a fight, what would happen to that Arab child and what would happen to that Jewish child would be massively different in the legal system. One is judged under the laws of Israel, one is judged under the laws of a military occupation. And so that has far more realms that are closer to sort of what you could be conceived of when you talk about apartheid.
Right.
The view of it has been shared by Ehud Olmert, the former Prime Minister of Israel, and even the former Defense Minister, Ehud Barak, Defense Minister. who worries that without an end to the occupation and getting to a two-state solution, Israel could actually turn into an apartheid state.
Right. Noam, what any specific thing that Joel says, being in Israel, that you agree or disagree with, and in terms of this labeling of your country as an apartheid state, what's your opinion on that?
To tell the truth, because of his English accent, I didn't understand all of what he's saying. I'm sorry, Joel.
Okay, I'll speak slower.
Thank you. If you can do it in an American accent, it will be great. But I did understand from you that you said that in Israel, if a Jewish child gets in trouble in fighting or something like this, and an Arab child will get in a fight, they will be judged differently.
In the West Bank, not within Israel proper, but within the West Bank.
In the West Bank, you have the Palestinian police that deal with this kind of trouble. They have their own code. They have their own, I can say, some kind of government of legal system that take care of this stuff. But if this child has been offended against Israeli citizen or did it in Israeli territory, there will be the same trial as Israeli man. I will give you an example. If a Palestinian come inside in Israel and stole a vehicle or something, you will get a fair trial. It will, like me, go and steal a car or something. So it's incorrect.
Okay, Rick.
Except for cases, I just hear lots of echo. It's confusing me. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Except in case it's involved in terror. Okay.
All right, great. Rick, can you chime in here, please?
Sure. I have to admit I had some trouble with Noam's accent as well. I don't speak Hebrew. But I would say that Joel makes a very good point that the apartheid nature of the Israeli state is much more obvious in the territories, which of course are not part of the Israeli state, even though they're treated that way. It's even more obvious in the other parts of Palestine that Israel, where the IDF is really calling shots. They're under martial law. The Palestinians are under martial law. The settlers aren't. That's two sets of laws, and that is apartheid, I believe, under the UN definition. Now, within Israel, though, I would disagree with both Joel and Noam. There are a number of laws that distinguish between Palestinians and Israelis. I'm not a lawyer, certainly not an expert at law, but I have read a number of them. To be honest, I don't remember most of them, but one of them is the citizenship law. Obviously, it applies differently to Jews and non-Jews. And then the other issue is it's not just about the law, but the way that it's administered. And the policies of Israel against Arab Israelis are obviously discriminatory. I mean, they targeted the government. I'm not talking about the distinction between the Israeli people and their government. The government has targeted 30 Bedouin communities for destruction, and this is how it keeps the Jewish majority, by essentially making conditions unlivable for Palestinian Arabs, for Israeli Arabs, and also makes it very difficult. I shouldn't say the government does. This is more the extremists in Israel make it very difficult for Palestinian Christians. So there's been a huge exodus of Christians, Israeli Christians, I'm talking about. There's been a huge exodus of Israeli Christians over the last decade or two. This was documented well on 60 Minutes. I think it was accurate. So I don't want to get into a huge debate about this. Certainly don't want to make it personal, but I think that a strong case can be made that Carter was right when he said that Israel is an apartheid state.
I want to just sort of like just answer something that Noam said and pick up something that Rick said. So Noam, I was specifically talking about, for example, if in H2 in Hebron, a kid from a settler community gets in a fight with a kid who lives in Hebron, who's Palestinian, the Palestinian police don't get involved. That's specifically something that will be tried in the military courts. And the kid from something that Rick said, I think that we have to distinguish between Israel's aspirations and the challenges of the reality of the present. I think that Israel's aspirations in the Declaration of Independence is full and equal rights for all of its citizens. And that Declaration of Independence was made, which is its basic law, which the Supreme Court uses, was made a day before the War of Independence. So I think there's an aspirational hope for full and equal rights. That's one. As you say, the implementation of the law, there's significant challenges. I think that anyone who denies those significant challenges doesn't know Israel. Of course, there's significant challenges in terms of the application, both in terms of the application of the law and in terms of resource allocation within Israel, and the plight of Arabs who live within Israel, whether they're Jews or Palestinian, whether Christian or Muslim or agnostic atheist, including also migrant workers, are having significant challenges as Israel struggles with itself about what it means to be a Jewish and democratic state. But what I would say is that the aspiration and ideology around having a Jewish democratic state is not necessarily one that has to be racist. I think that while there is a risk of falling into what could be an ethnically superior state, I don't think we're there yet. I think that there's significant challenges that need to be faced. So that, I'd say, is sort of just to tighten what I started by saying.
Right. Do Noam or Rick, do you have a response to that?
Yes, I do. I think this is not a fundamental difference of opinion. It's a relatively fine point of distinction, and I don't really, again, I don't think it's worth trying to, I don't think we're going to agree exactly on this. I do think Joel made an excellent point, though, that aspiration is for full equality for all citizens. And I think the United States is a really good example of our Declaration of Independence declared the absolute equality of all men. But when they said that, they didn't mean women, they meant men. And they didn't mean blacks, they meant white men. And they didn't mean men without property. So it's great to have those aspirations in the United States. We've been trying to achieve them. We did have to go through a civil war to get a little closer. But I'm hoping that the people of Israel will realize that really if they believe in equality, if they believe in justice, they'll fight for justice for Palestinians, wherever they are, in Israel or in occupied Palestine.
So Noam, what's your thoughts on the idea of fighting, your government, standing up for justice right now? Do you feel that justice has been served or not so much?
I think more than justice has been served. I just want to say a few things about citizens and non-citizens. Okay, all of Israeli citizens are equal by law and more. I will give examples later of this. The people that live in Palestine territories are not citizens of Israel. And this is why they're not treating like citizens of Israel. It's like, I don't know, the United States catch someone that entered from Mexico to the United States. It's the same thing, okay? About the Bedouin, Rick, about the Bedouins that you talk about, my hometown is in the Negev, it's a desert area of Israel, and I know the Bedouin very well. I work with them, I have friends that are Bedouin, and you need to understand it's a population in Israel. They're not Palestinian, by the way. the Bedouin, the tribes, and they're not Palestinian. And they are taking areas of inside Israel without paying taxes, building houses without approval. They do whatever they want. They give the country gives them money because of the child support and everything, and they do whatever they want. They doesn't do the obligation of a citizen by paying taxes and serve the army. They enjoying only the privilege of living in Israel, being a citizen in Israel. So yeah, it's a problem over there, but they are treating equally as all citizens of Israel.
Right.
And when I say more than that, the government has lots of programs to integrate minorities in Israel into society by enforcing them in my college, in each class, you have some percent that need to be occupied by minorities. So you see a lot of Muslim, Christians, Jews in the classes. The government paid for their studying. That's it. Lots of information that you gave here, it's incorrect. So,
I'd like to respond.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rick.
First of all, if I made myself unclear, I was not talking about the law of citizenship for people who are born in Israel. I was talking about the immigration laws. They are discriminatory. I mean, to become a citizen from outside Israel, you have to be a Jew either by birth or by conversion. So that's the point I was trying to make there. The idea that how the U.S. government treats illegal aliens in the United States, comparing that to how they treat territories, makes my point, I think, very strongly. Israel treats the Palestinian people where they occupy their lands as if they had the right to control them, just like the U.S. government has the right to say what illegal immigrants can do here in the United States. The illegal immigrants in Palestine are the Israelis. So that is a really perfect way to look at it, in my opinion. Also, the point was made about the responsibility to pay taxes for Israeli citizens, regardless of their background. Fine, that's true. That's true in any country. But he didn't mention the fact that the Israeli government also claims the right to claim taxes for Palestinians on the West Bank and to withhold them if they protest the apartheid policies and other illegal actions of the Israeli government. So, not to negate anything, some of the things Noam said, because I'm not an Israeli and I don't know the details of all the laws. I know there are programs to try to make society work better that the government sponsors, but they won't work as long as there are these two sets of standards, two sets of citizenship.
Right.
An apartheid government.
Can we?
okay.
Do you have a quick response, Noam? Because I want to get Joel in here.
Yeah, basically, Rick, from what I understand, you said that the Jewish people doesn't have a point even being here. This is what you said?
Said what? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
That we don't have even the right being here.
Israelis, I think he's referring to.
Where? In Israel?
No, I think he meant in the West Bank. No, I think he was talking about the West Bank.
Okay, and you said about the right of return, okay? Yes, Israel is a Jewish state, like the other 22 countries around us that are, by definition, a Muslim states. So yes, you have one state in the world that definition is Jewish. If you have a problem with this, I don't care, really.
Go ahead, Joel. Come in here,
They
Joel.
are not by definition. They are not by definition Muslim states. Israel is the only state founded on the principle that it is a one religion culture. The other ones simply, by virtue of the fact that they are majority Muslim, that is the way. But they're all different governments. None of them are fully
Rick, can we have Joel come in here?
Israel wants that citizens need to ask themselves if that's possible in having out people who aren't Jews.
So I just want to jump in because I think that we're going to start having some cross wires. So just as two things. One, I think that Rick, the analogy between Israel and America is incorrect, mainly because America and Canada are not traditional states; they're immigrant nations. Israel far more resembles traditionally a European state, which is a nation state. It was founded on the basis of liberal nationalism, where a nation, according to Woodrow Wilson's 14 points, has the best ability for self-determination. Now, how that therefore comes into ground in terms of is liberal nationalism and the nation state fundamentally a broken concept or not is a great sort of philosophical and nationalist question. I think that additionally, Noah, I think you're being confused, and Rick at times in the conversation, there are Palestinian Arab citizens of Israel, and then there are Palestinians who live in the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, who go for their own personal reasons and for the fact that Israel hasn't extended them the become citizens. So their obligations to the Arab citizens who are citizens is different from those who are not citizens. So that's one. Secondly, importantly, when we go back to the nature of Israel, we go back to the nature of Zionism. So there are multiple different forms of Zionism. There is socialist Zionism, there is religious Zionism, there is liberal Zionism, there is all different sorts. But fundamentally, the concept being, and this is when we go back to where Noam and Rick, I think you're starting to loggerheads on this, is the concept of the nation state and demography and territory being the two constituent parts that, you have a majority in Israel as Jewish as its democracy allows. And what does that mean is an open question currently within Israel. What does it mean to be a Jewish state? Does that mean the majority of the people are Jewish? Does it mean that Saturdays are often instead of Sundays? And the answer to that question determines whether the concept of having a Jewish democracy is compatible or incompatible. The way I define Jewish state is and I'm happy to provide my own definition, is a very compatible definition with democracy. The way others would define it would be incompatible with democracy. But the definition of what you mean by the term becomes very important, which is why I just wanted to flag that and just do that.
Right, and so So I guess what I would bring up next, and I mean we're open to in terms of wait, no, what I was going to say is can we take the conversation into the spectrum of we talk about what belongs to which people and how these people are treated in these different lands. Right now we have at least one piece of land that's considered a disputed territory. And you keep bringing up people keep bringing up the idea of international law and how it should be applied to these disputed territories. Rick, what's your take on how international law plays into this conflict?
Well, one of the things that came out of World War II was international legal agreements that occupied territories cannot be, territory captured in war cannot be occupied by the aggressor or whatever, the victor of the war. They cannot, you cannot move the people from the population of that country into the defeated territories. So the occupation is illegal under international law, UN Convention, and I understand other international law. So, it's a pretty clear case of violation of international law. Israel has said repeatedly that they want a two-state solution, but instead of freezing settlements and making that possible, they're building settlements all over the West Bank that are carving up the West Bank, taking the vast majority of the water supplies, making settler-only roads that make it impossible to have commerce within the Palestinian sectors. And now Netanyahu is announcing he wants to build an E1, which will make a two-state solution utterly impossible.
No, what's your...
It starts with this violation of international law, and it's ending with not only occupying the territories, but essentially seizing them all, which is blatantly illegal. The reason that's illegal is because you don't want people starting wars for conquest. That's what the UN was founded to stop. And Israel does it with impunity.
Right. So, Noam, what's your take on the application of international law and the idea of what Rick's bringing up? The idea that the Israeli government keeps, building these settlements, and it's across lands that would be considered part of a two-state solution, but yet they continue to build them, and it kind of gives the impression that no sort of two-state solution is then going to be possible.
First of all, Rick, what is your profession?
What is my profession? I profess to be objective about these issues. How's that? I don't get paid for doing what I do right now. I do it because I care about both.
I'm just a student. Instead of doing homework, is sitting here in the chat. But I ask you a serious question. You can answer me seriously.
Sure. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. A question about a question. Yes, go ahead.
No,
I asked you, what is your profession?
Oh, what is my profession? What do you mean by profession? I'm trained as a psychiatrist. I'm self-trained in a lot of other fields.
Okay. So you're not a lawyer, and you're not a professional, I don't know, how do you call it in English? I'm sorry. And you declare here that this is an illegal occupation. It's not what I read, and this is what I think, okay? So, I don't know where to refer to.
Joel, the question was, how do what is your take on the continuous building of settlements in these lands that by international law might be considered Palestinian lands?
First of all, Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, okay? And we can build whatever we want in our capital, like you do in Washington DC, or Joel people do in London. Israel has shown through history again and again that we are willing to do almost everything to get peace. We did it with Egypt when we gave them the Sinai Desert. We did it with Gaza, and it didn't work out very well. And we were willing to do it again if they will promise us real peace. Even divine Jerusalem, our capital. But I didn't see any criticism to the Palestinians as an apartheid state, because they have much worse laws over there. Like if Palestinian will sell his house to Israeli, he will be executed by law.
Right. So, Joel, can you step in here? If you want to bring it back on subject, because I think we went off it a little bit in terms of, these disputed territories and how it should be handled through international law.
Sure. I refer to them as occupied territories for the reason that I'm not a lawyer, but what I'd say is that the entire international community refers to them as occupied territories. America condemns building within the West Bank and East Jerusalem when it happens. So they don't refer to it as, I don't think the Americans refer to it as illegal settlement activities, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But every other country, including every other democracy, does. So though it hasn't been heard in The Hague, the only country that doesn't believe that it's illegal is Israel. So I'll go with the international consensus when I use the terminology illegal and occupied. So with that, I think that rather than getting into the finer parts of international law, I think what's key, and I understand Noam's frustration, the frustration of many Israelis, is that the concept of land for peace is trading a tangible concept and intangible concept. And the Israelis are very, very good about talking a big game. So constantly talking about what peace will bring and all the other parts of it. The challenge being that since the signing of the Oslo Accords till today, there are more settlers now than there were at the start of the Oslo Accords. Now, you can look at how those settlements grew and where those settlements grew, but that's the fact on the ground for the Palestinians. For the Israelis felt they pulled out of Gaza, they pulled out of Lebanon, and each time they responded with rockets. And therefore, regardless of what the Palestinians do, the fact remains that once they pulled out of territory, rockets fell on their territory. And if they pull out of the West Bank, not only will there be rockets falling on Ashdod and Sderot in the south, but you're going to see in Tel Aviv and Ben Gurion. And the challenge becomes that what the Palestinians do doesn't fixate the Israelis' main desire, that it's about having a culture of peace and understanding what peace means, because that needs to be sustained, because occupation and peace are two sides of the same coin. So fundamentally, therefore, you have the challenge that each side gives each other what they don't want. The Israelis talk a big game, but simply are building settlements, which to the chagrin of all of their international friends. And the Palestinians, they will improve on security coordination. It's very hard to sort of give the Israelis the words they want to hear to the Israeli population. And therefore you have this complete mismatch of which each one gives, and therefore complete distrust. And the greatest challenge at the moment is this complete lack of trust between the sides, between the populations that have becoming completely incredulous that anything can ever progress. That yes, they agree on the eventual, what it could look like, but the ability to get there, neither side believes ever willing to make any moves forward. So I'm trying to stay on topic, but I just felt rather than get caught into the weeds of what international law dictates, seeing as that I'm not an international lawyer, I'll go with the international consensus. The fundamental issue is that Palestinians see settlements grow and use that as proof that Israel is not serious about peace. Fact. And if you've gone to the West Bank and to Palestinians, that's a fact. Israelis see that the moves they've made have always led to rockets. And therefore, until you challenge those two fundamental challenges, we can't progress forward.
Right. Does anyone want to respond to that? Otherwise, I can, definitely move into a new question.
Well, I just want to say that the agreements that have been made have been really one-sided, and the benefits of the Palestinians have been much less than the benefits to Israel in terms of Israel's security versus their liberties. The Oslo Accords is a good example. A lot of people felt that Egypt sold out the Palestinians in the Oslo Accords, and it was about bringing back into power Arafat, but not giving him the power to shape for the people a fairer and more permanent settlement. That's just one example. What Israel got out of what Israel got out of making peace with Egypt, as another example, was they got security of their southern borders. Egypt got a couple of $1 billion a year, but again, the people in Gaza felt they were sold out. So they now live in an area that's bounded on all sides by essentially the IDF, the Israeli Navy off the coast. There are constant violations of the Palestinian right to fish in their own 3-mile limit, which is also not in convention with international law, which is 12 to 20 miles, I forget. Anyway, so what this whole situation with Gaza, Noam said, look, we gave them Gaza. What did they give them? They destroyed the infrastructure that the settlement had built in some of the best men in Gaza as they went out, and they've turned it into an open air prison. And some people, I don't know the facts. I don't know what's in people's minds and their hearts. But some people think that they want to basically confine them there and control everything that comes in and out to the point they can never develop, and they will always be easily controlled, like people in a prison. So I do think it's a bit more complex than Noam painted it out to be, of Israel constantly making these compromises, and the result is more violence toward them. I think Joel alluded to that, but I think it's been, you can make a stronger statement even than Joel.
Right. So guys, I just wanted to come in here quickly. Someone inside the text chat who's been watching the conversation, named Gary, would like to join the conversation. So I'm going to leave the room. The recording is going to continue, and you guys, can continue to have your conversation. And if you wouldn't mind, obviously continue to keep it, both civil and respectful, and that would be great. Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Hello?
What's on your mind?
Joe knows me. Rick, I don't know you. You know me. I don't know, or something like that. But hello.
Hey, your camera's frozen, but we can hear you. So my suggestion is turn off your camera and just carry on with audio.
The camera is a little bit. I don't know what's going on with the camera.
So don't worry. So, dude, on the top of your screen, you'll see there's a button.
What's on your mind, Gary?
Alright, so go for it.
That's better. I don't know why the camera is not working properly.
It's fine. Gary, do you want to go for it?
First, can everybody hear me okay? That's fine, yeah. The video's not working, everyone can hear. Let's have a conversation, shall we?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I've been listening to everything that everyone's been saying, and whilst I appreciate that there's a huge amount of different topics that everyone likes to talk about, and there's different words that people like to use and things. I think that one of the main things that a lot of people miss out of conversations like this is a focus on really trying to tackle the question of how to move forward, because people can sit and talk about what's going on wrong in Gaza, what's going wrong in Israel, what's going wrong in the West Bank, and we can quote all kinds of different words and things like that. We can say apartheid, we can say rockets being fired and things like this, but the reality is that people are being hurt by this, real human beings, people that I know, people that you know, people that we're all friends with and connected with. And I think that the discourse, in my personal opinion, needs to change from one where people are just citing accusations against each other, regardless of whether you're right-wing politically, left-wing politically, or whatever, because, there's a certain bandwidth where you can sort of work with what I call the moderate middle, regardless of whether you're slightly right or slightly left in the political spectrum, and actually talk about like human rights, civil rights, and also genuinely look at international. And that's something, I'll say right away, Noam, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. You're the hottest guy that I've ever disagreed with politically. Really. I knew you'd get a smile out of that one. But seriously, you were talking about taxes earlier, to talk about a serious point here. Taxes in Israel. We'll take that one for a start, and we'll look at Jerusalem, because Jerusalem was pointed out earlier on as well, right? Everybody in the municipality of Jerusalem, that's including people in East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem, they all pay taxes to the municipality. However, the distribution of those taxes, as recorded by various different newspapers, by Haaretz, by 972 magazine, things like that, are known that the Israeli government and the Israeli municipality don't share those taxes, even though the people who are living there pay the tax all the same. They don't share it equally among the Jewish Israeli population in predominantly West Jerusalem and the Arab population in East Jerusalem. There are considerably less facilities available for the Arab population in East Jerusalem. And yes, you can bring up the argument that they're not citizens, or the majority of them are not citizens of Israel. However, Israel annexed that territory, contrary to international law, and then treats it as its territory. So why the discrimination there of the people who are being treated wrongly? Talk about human rights and the civil right of people to have fair equality in the way in which the municipality spends their funds, the services that they receive, and all the rest of it. That's a point that I wanted to raise. Anyone of you can pick up on that if you want.
I don't really know if I'm just keeping hearing myself. It's very confusing.
Barry, you've got a lot of feedback.
Okay, 1 second. I'll find some headphones if you want. I can do that. I'm using an inbuilt microphone, unfortunately. Did you all hear what I said there for the last 5 minutes? Just checking.
Yeah.
Pretty much, okay.
Very clear.
Yeah, guys, if you mute yourself when someone else is speaking, you won't get feedback.
Yeah. What?
Alright, so Noam, do you want to start and everyone else mute yourself?
I'm not really know if
you won't get any feedback from me now.
Okay. I don't really know if we charge taxes from the citizens in the East Jerusalem part, but I do know that every time we try to build facilities over there, because of the massive illegal buildings over there and riots, it's just impossible to do there anything. All the time when some force enters over there, try to locate an illegal building to build a park or school, it's ends with riots. So this is what I know.
Self.
I think I lost Gary, and I wish I could have heard you better, Noam, because it sounded like you were saying something important. But Gary started out asking, what can we